listen to those things. Talk to your children. Sometimes they need a therapist. They need someone to talk to besides the parents, and they won't tell the parents. Or they're trying to share something with you. They want to talk to you about their friends, and your response it will determine whether they're going to tell you more or you will never know anything.
Hello, and welcome to this edition of Love Speaks. I'm your host, LaKisha Carvil. Love Speaks is where we bring very informative topics with individuals who are making a great impact in our community. And so with their impact, not only are they making the impact, but they are expressing it through love, because love is not what it says, but it's also what it does. And so with my co-host, Francois, we have decided to bring this virtual podcast to you, highlighting awesome people who are doing a great work in our local area. And so today we have a very special guest, special in so many ways, because not only is she a great inspiration to our community, Miss Tiesha Carvil with Healthy Mind Therapeutic Services, but she's also my sister in love. And so it's great honor and privilege to introduce and have her here on the podcast with me today. We talk on all occasions about all topics. So it's a great thing. So we're just going to sit here and have a conversation and invite you in. How about that? How about we do that today, sis?
We can do it.
We're going to have a conversation and we're going to invite you. It's just going to be us being ourselves. We're taking our hats off. We're both professionals, and she is a mental health professional as well. And as many of you know, we said here on this podcast that we are doing. And look, I am literally now just 3 weeks away from entering to my internship and practice as a clinical mental health therapist. So we often have conversation around the field in the area of mental health. And so today, but her specialty, for her track is not only mental health, but she's also specialized in substance abuse. And so today I want to welcome you, sis.
You can't clap the mic, so we just do this. Hi, everybody.
So help me welcome my sister, Tiesha Carvil with Healthy Mind Therapeutic Services. And we're going to jump right in our topic today. First, let us just start with this. What made you want to become a therapist? Let's start there. That's number one question.
Oh, you trying to start real heavy. Early. Out the gate.
Let's just go out the gate. No, first, let's start with this. Not just what you, but first tell us a little about Tiesha. Who is Tiesha Carvil?
Well, Tiesha Carvil is a wife. She's a mother. She's a sister. She is, she can be a little feisty at times, but, she's just as gentle as anybody else can be. And, when you mess with the kids, then, a different hat kind of comes out. But she's all of those particular things,
So that's Tiesha as an individual, your mother, your wife. Now let's go into the professional. So I know you are a mental health therapist, and you have your own practice. You have your own practice, which is Healthy Mind Therapeutic Services.
Right.
And so in that particular field, in that practice, first tell us why you chose private practice.
Well, one of the things that made me go into this is I was working for a big company, a big corporation for a while. And I saw a lot of things that they were doing that just didn't mesh with our people in a sense. So, anytime you go into a place where you have to work with people that have mental health issues, 9 times out of 10, especially if it's a substance abuse facility, it's more than likely going to be a plethora of white people, and maybe you'll see 2 or 3 black people. And that kind of, it kind of disturbed me the wrong way, I guess you can say. And so what usually happen is that I would see them, like if we would get too upset or maybe perceived to be aggressive, we were always transitioned out. Or if you did have black therapists that were there, what would usually happen is they would call the black therapist just only to work with the black people that would come in. And oftentimes it would do them a disservice because you had other therapists that had other things that they could offer to these particular people. But because they didn't work with the Black community, they just didn't know how. So what I did was I ended up getting out of working with, I guess, corporate America because it didn't work for me. So I learned all the rules and all the regulations that pertain to substance abuse and how I could actually venture out on my own. And my husband said, "Hey, babe, if you want to do this," I did it.
I know we started with private practice, but what made you want to become a therapist? Because in most cases, growing up as kids, we started with, okay, I want to be a lawyer, a doctor, a dentist or judge, but never ever really stating that you would want to be a therapist. But, what made you say, okay, what did you see growing up as, a child that as an adult, you changed that thought process to say, okay, no, this is what I want to do? Why therapy?
So I actually did want to be a lawyer.
Hey, we all
did, right? So I actually did want to be a lawyer, but the way life kind of took me, I didn't get a chance to do that. I was actually I didn't graduate high school. Went all the way, and to 12th grade, and just didn't graduate. There were some things that happened in my life, and my life took a different turn. But I ended up getting a GD. Then I had to go get the associates. Then I had to get the bachelor's. Then you have to get the this. And so I went and did all those things. But before all of that, what made me want to get into this it was years later, just kind of watching my mama still being stuck in a place that I thought she would grow from. She never got herself together in the sense of she was a substance abuse user, So I always thought that if I could help her, then maybe I could help other people as well, because I'm the product of a mother and a father who were substance abuse users, and here I am wanting them to have something that we were told they could get, but they never got. Because just like I said before, when you asked the previous question, why did I get out? Because there were a lot of people that were not able to work with the Black community as much as they should have been. So I got into it in the mind space of thinking that I could help my mom.
And so just talking about your mom and the substance abuse leads me to my next question. What type of therapy do you specialize in? Because we know there's many forms of therapy, but what is your specialty in therapy?
Well, so we talk about, substance abuse is of course, it's really wide. So there are different things called modalities. So there are different modalities that I use. And but one in particular that I like is a modality called gestalt therapy. That particular type of therapy would be something like as you just sitting right there. Let's say you're taking the place of God, and I could be the one that's angry about whatever God did not do in my childhood. We would bring those things out kind of in therapy, and we'll work through that. And it's like it's kind of as if they're seeing that person there, and they're able to spill all those things out and say all the things that they need to say in order to be able to heal from whatever it is that they're going through. But that's, on a bigger scale. When you first come in, we're doing some one-on-one. We're working through these things because you would have to trust me in order to even get to that level. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes. Makes a lot of sense. And so that's why I guess I posed the question, because knowing that there are many forms of therapy,
right,
and specializing, as you mentioned, substance abuse and the modalities, where have you seen in the course of your treatments that you've seen? And first, if you can, before answering that, is how do you define substance abuse, but also in your therapies over the years that you have practiced, that substance abuse is what is attracted to? Is it trauma? Is it abuse? Verbal, physical, emotional? And so I want you to just kind of elaborate on that. First of all, what is substance abuse, and what have you seen attached to that abuse? Is that abuse out of trauma, out of pain? What have you seen as you've been practicing over these years?
So what I've seen mostly, and I think that you can attest to this, even as a minister or a pastor in the church, that I have to be careful with my words. Sometimes people are coming into a place where they are allowing themselves to continuously be victimized by a particular thing that they don't want to let go. Does that make sense?
Definitely. Yes.
So you understand what I'm
Seen
saying,
it,
right?
yes.
So what I'm seeing is, of course, an overload of people using words that they hear, but has no attachment to them as a person. Like you overhear narcissism, you overhear trauma, you overhear PTSD, and all these particular things. When they have no idea, they've just gravitated to these things.
And gaslighting.
And
Still have
gaslighting
that on
is
there.
the main. So we hear these things often, and people, and antisocial. That is one word that I'm going to give you guys for free. Do not ever use unless you are actually an antisocial person having a personality disorder issue. Antisocial is not a word that people should be using in their everyday vocabulary. And I notice that people use it often because they're saying, they're attesting it to them being in a social environment that they're against. So the terminology really is social anxiety. But sometimes when you say anxiety to people, they don't want to hear that word. They're like, I'm not anxious, but you really are. So don't use the word. So we're using all these things, and everybody is pulling it into themselves. And even from a spiritual aspect, we understand that we're not supposed to be saying all these things. You're saying I am, and then you put this word there. I am, and then you put this word there, and then you say they are, and you put that word there. That is not something that we should be labeling ourselves with when you don't have the exact information to know, what what you really are, what this particular diagnosis may be for you.
How would you define substance abuse?
So substance abuse itself is, of course, you're taking in substances. Substances could be food. You can overeat. You could overdrink, and you can use things that are not supposed to be in your body. Like people use marijuana. They can do it excessively. You have people that may do methadone or meth. You have people that are using their prescription drugs, and they're using it in excess, and they're not doing it how the doctor tells them that they should be using it. So that's what substance abuse is, when you are abusing a substance that you're not supposed to have.
That's really good, because I think a lot of times, a lot of people may think because it's prescribed, I can use it as freely as I like and as I want to, but it is a thing that people are abusing prescription drugs, and it is becoming a habit, and now creating that substance abuse for them because they're abusing what, although been prescribed, they are not taking it accordingly. So when does someone need therapy if you see that there is substance abuse, and when should they reach out for support?
Well, it's not often that people reach out immediately, because now if you think about it, you're taking away. So let's say if you're used to doing this, and this is helping with your trauma, this is helping with your anxiety, so you think, but now you can't function. You can't go to work. You can't do your ADLs, which is activities of daily living. You can't do the main things that help you to get to where you need to be. So now here I am, the therapist, coming in trying to say, hey, let's not do this. What are you going to do? You're going to take it back, right? And so the therapist's job is to try and say, and so people, they don't understand that we do this thing called harm reduction. So I may take it, but I'm not going to take all of it. I'm going to say, you can have a little bit, but let's try not to do so much tomorrow. And then the next day, and then the next day. And then that's how harm reduction works. And then slowly you're giving to me those things that are, enabling you to work, so you think, to do the things that you want to do in this world that are not conducive to your daily activities.
The reason I guess I asked, just to piggyback on how do you define a substance abuse, is because I hear a lot from people who, because they function. Mm-hmm. They function well with whatever that thing is, whether it's alcohol, prescription drugs, and because they're functioning, they don't identify it as abuse. And so that's why, as a therapist, a substance abuse therapist, I wanted you to define that, because after having conversations with, and I'm not abusing, and I don't have an addiction, and because they're functioning. So, what do you
So
say to those who are functioning
they're
but
not
still?
functioning. Then I'm
But
sorry
they
to
think
interrupt.
they are.
They think they are, because so think about it like this. You see those people daily, and I'm sure you see it in the church and things like that as well. You see people seemingly functioning, but in their daily lives, something is lacking. The children are great identifiers. They will tell you, no, this is happening. Or in their relationships, things like trauma spills over into relationships as well. These things spill over. You will lack something. And if it's not, let's say it's not, let's say it is just helping you to kind of just maintain. Eventually, you will go over, because your body can only take so much at a time to where it's not working anymore. You're going to want more and then more and then more. And this is where it starts to spill over even more into your life. And then you're not functioning anymore. It's a problem.
That's real good. And I said that because I had conversation with someone who tells me that they're not addicted because they don't have to have it, but it's just something they indulge in. But I tell them, anything you do every single day, whether if it's good or bad, it's a habit.
Yeah,
And
true.
so if I go to the gym and I work out every single day and I'm working out, it's a habit.
It's a
And
habit.
so you have good habits and you have some bad habits.
is correct.
And so we have to be able to, because I think what happens is the reality of what people kind of project for themselves to say that this is my reality. I take, 3 glasses of wine at night before I go to bed. It makes me feel good. And they think that it's okay, and it's not me being addicted, and I'm not, an abuser of it, but it just makes me feel good. But anything that you rely on, I think, is a addiction.
Yeah.
If you have to have it, when you saying you don't have to have it, but even subconsciously you're reaching for it, it's an addiction.
Yeah, that's one of the questions actually in the DSM. You'll see that when you get ready to take the testing, and in the DSM, that's one of the questions that we ask is, do you have to have this first thing in the morning? And when you do, what do you do? That's one of the questions that we ask. And if they circle yes to that question, it is a problem. But getting the person to see themselves, that is the big problem that we have as therapists, because oftentimes people want you to agree with what's going on with them, instead of them seeing that, hey, they are having an issue and they don't want to release it. That's again like me saying, hey, let me take this from you. They're like, no, because this has been making me feel better. I use the blanket, to like if someone's in a session with me, I have blankets, and I'm like, put this blanket on and hold on to it tight. And I give them the demonstration of, I'm trying to take this from you, but you won't let me. So getting them to see that, it's a little difficult.
And so is there an age range that you work with specifically, or is it?
I definitely do not work with children.
And we shouldn't have any children, but we know that there is many of kids with substance abuse, and we see it with the fentanyl crisis, and we see it with the different crises that this nation has experienced. But just in regards to you as a therapist, are there a specific age?
Well, 18 and older. You have to be at least 18. And the reason I do that is because when you work with children, you have to work with the parents. And oftentimes the parents have issues that they are trickling down to their kids, and they don't want to see that they have an issue. They want the child fixed, but the parent has to be fixed in order for the child to be in a certain place. So it's kind of hard for me to work with the parent and the child. There are people that, are for that, and I can refer you if you need to. But you have to be 18 and older for me to be able to work with you.
So one thing I discovered in therapy is cultural awareness. And because there is such a thing of cultural awareness, as you have been providing therapy services, as you have gone from culture, because I know it's just not the African American culture, but you've had the dynamics of all cultures. And some, as we talking about substance abuse, because when you think about other cultures, when you talked earlier about marijuana, that's not abuse for certain cultures, because that's something that they do in their culture, just a part of their lifestyle.
Correct.
And so when you talking about the substance abuse, how are you dealing with that and combating that as you're dealing with the cultural differences?
Marijuana is, as you can see, it's being accepted worldwide.
Because I think
And
it's New York and is in
yes,
California that
yes.
it's, just
Well,
free for all.
and they're doing it now because it can be taxed. If you think about the taxes on it, you couldn't tax marijuana before. That was the whole thing about it. And I think you'll learn that a little later as you go on. You'll see those things.
And the reason I ask that because of the cultural awareness of it, because when you're talking about therapy, making sure that we are aware of the culture so we can be effective. Because I think, again, as we stated earlier, that our clients must first trust us. And if they
Correct.
can't trust us because we don't understand the cultural differences, it will cause a barrier in our therapy sessions, and they're going to
Correct.
immediately shut us down. And,
Correct.
and that's already an ineffective session. And so that's why I asked the question in regards to the cultural awareness. How important is it when you are counseling these different
So I like
cultures?
to share with people that I am a Christian therapist. And so if we go by what the word says, our body should be holy and an acceptable sacrifice unto the Lord. So if you're coming into me, automatically my thing is always going to be, we don't need any of these things. We're going to practice abstinence. But if this is something that they're going to do, so I think about someone coming in that has been on meth or has been on any other harder substances that are out there, I'm going to let you smoke some marijuana. We're not going to argue that. You can smoke it. You can get the sativa or whatever it is that you need to help you because they need that help. But if this is someone who just wants to abuse that, we have to find out why. Why does this make you, feel the way that you do? And do you have to continue to use it? And what can we do to kind of help you to kind of wean off of that? But a lot of people are accepting of it now. You have the marijuana cards, and a lot of these people are not working jobs where they're, functioning with cranes and things like that because you just can't, you know.
And so that's where, as just growing up as a kid, I could always remember and hear, that those kind of, you had to be careful because those kind of drugs kind of lead to hard core drugs, because what
Yes.
happens is if once you can't get a feeling from that anymore, then you go to something that can kind of give you that edge or that feeling. And so it kind of have individuals going to more hardcore drugs where they now with
Yeah.
the meth or the heroin.
Yeah.
And so are there signs that leads to substance abuse?
Well, one of the biggest signs, and I had to learn this even with my own children. I will encourage every parent, if you can, children follow. They do what you do. They don't necessarily do what you say. And like you said, they have the friends, and we have the social media, and we have the things. When you're checking their social media, check their private pages, check this page, because they have them, right? Monitor their friends. The signs are never always there. You really can't tell, because children they'll hide. They will hide. But when you start seeing grades slipping, the teachers will tell you sometimes, hey, they're sleeping a little too much in class, or they're doing this, or they're doing that. Listen to those things. Talk to your children. Sometimes they need a therapist. They need someone to talk to besides the parents, and they won't tell the parents. Or they're trying to share something with you. They want to talk to you about their friends, and your response it will determine whether they're going to tell you more or you will never know anything. And sometimes when the parents find out, it's a little too late. And oftentimes it's because the parents are abusing substances as well. They're smoking marijuana because they have the marijuana cards and they think it's okay. And guess what that child is doing? Sneaking in their drawers and getting those things, and they're doing it as well. So it's a number of things that can happen. Let's say you have a child. My daughter just had an ACL tear and a meniscus tear. She plays basketball, and they were trying to give her Percocets, and I said, no. And this is a true thing as well. Because I have substance abuse in my family, our children are more susceptible. We're right here on the drugs. They can get addicted just like that. So we have to be careful of what we are allowing, into even our children's bodies. Monitoring. I kept the pill bottle in my room, monitoring what she was taking. And then after a while, she was like, "Mommy, I don't even need them no more." I think she took like 3 for 3 days and she didn't need them anymore. And I was there with her, just monitoring, with her. So you have to monitor your children. I do homeschool, but just watching them, I watch my kids like a hawk.
And so I'm glad you mentioned that in regards to generational, because substance abuse can enter our family or enter one's life multiple ways. And I believe, and I know for a fact, and that's why we had another therapist here talked about genograms. And when you do that, you're kind of setting up the generational patterns
yeah.
where you can see, okay, generationally. I know for me, my family,
Yeah.
it's a substance abuse, but it's alcoholism.
Ah,
It's not drugs. And so for me as an individual, I stray away. I stay
Yeah.
away. I don't have alcohol in my house. I
Yeah.
don't drink alcohol. And I thank God for it because it is the wisdom that God allowed me to see that
Yeah.
this is generational.
Right.
You've seen granddaddy who had to die. I watched him just soul himself. That's why I was joking with somebody when they always said, "Ooh, he was pissy drunk," or she
Yeah.
because literally they
were.
drank so much that they just went on
ruined themselves.
themselves.
Yeah.
And so I watched my grandfather who went through that, and then my mom suppressed pain and trauma with the bottle, and then now I see, and I said, you know what, this is a generational curse. This is
Yeah.
a pattern, and if I allow myself through my trauma, through my pain, to go to the bottle, then guess what, I'm repeating
repeating
that.
it.
So in
Yeah.
order for me to break this, I have to first become aware this thing is
Absolutely.
real. So when
Yeah.
other people says, "Oh, I just drink casually, I just drink socially, I just drink for fun, oh, it's
I
just a day,"
can't.
I can't
You can't
indulge
do it.
like you. I can't play with
No,
it. And
no.
so we have to realize that and recognize that if we're going to save our children, it's
Yeah.
bigger than me. It's not
Yeah.
even about me, because if I do it and I allow myself to be grabbed by that
Yes.
curse, then guess what? I'm going to set my children up to repeat that
yes, this
and
is
not
correct.
break it.
This
And
is
so
correct.
I'm so glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I think we can take notice and observation of, that, okay, this is an issue for my bloodline.
Right.
I saw grandma, I saw mama, and that's where we can see. And sometimes it skips a generation,
Yeah.
but if you identify it and you see that
You
if
can
it was
break it.
ever present in your generation, I don't care
Yes.
if you ain't seen it for 10 generations, if you can hear the stories and know that somebody struggled with this, then it's worth you paying attention to make sure you break
Absolutely.
that generation. And the next question is, why is substance abuse believed to increase during summer months?
So during the summer months, it increases because we have all these, wonderful holidays that are coming up. You have 4th of July, you have Memorial Day weekend, you have family vacations. I mean, we live here in South Florida, so it's a beautiful place, to visit. A lot of crime is done during that time, and a lot of people are doing, all sorts of things. We're right here on the water. So those things are just, it's only a hop skipping away to bring it in, even over the water. And so people indulge, they overly indulge because it seems cool. It also releases, because they're on vacation. They just want something to help them relax even more. And oftentimes, believe it or not, people are being spiked with these things. A lot of women, they're in these, hot spots here on South Beach, and they're being spiked with these cocktails that, a lot of these guys are bringing, and they're being, trafficked. We deal with a lot of victims of sex trafficking and things like that as well. And they get into using substances because, let's say, they're just coming from a whole trafficking thing, and now they can't get off of it because that was their way to cope. Here we go again, trying to take something that they're used to, and they don't have to remember. To make a person remember and have to sit in that, and you're bringing those thoughts back, that's a whole different set of trauma in itself.
Wow. It's really good. So, we're going to do this. We're going to do this because this information is so great. It's a great time sitting here with you. We're going to have to do and must do a part 2. So we're going to do this. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back. and we're going to jump right back into our conversation because I believe so many people need to hear what you have to say concerning substance abuse, especially during the summer months, because not only during the summer months, but as you mentioned one thing and you talked about, summer substance abuse over the summer, because I think we look for summer enjoyment, summer enlightenment.
Yeah.
And I know abuse, any kind of drug, drink, or whatever, it says it releases endorphins and
It does.
serotonins and things
Yeah.
like this. So people look to have these things, and instead of getting it different ways, you could go.
Yeah.
For me, it's a walk, it's an enjoyment
Yeah.
in the park, and so, but
Yeah.
or a movie, but each
Yeah.
its owns, and they're choosing different things. So we want to just continue this conversation.
Yeah.
And so we are going to be back with another episode. We're going to not end this episode, but we'll catch back up on another episode of Love Speaks with the conversation with Tiesha and Healthy Mind Therapeutic Services. So thank you for watching this episode. We look forward to having you again. Stay tuned.